Okay, so today's gonna be a bit of a different video. I still want to make a Ryze video, obviously, but I wanted to make a bit of a different one. I wanted to make one talking about like an actual mini rework idea for Ryze. Ideas, to be more specific. I don't have one thing in mind. I wanted to talk about more of the idea, because what I actually want in solo queue is I want. Oh, that's really cool. I'm not gonna edit this because I want I want you to be able to see my thought process, and so I might edit a bit if needed. Anyway, so the thing is, Ryze right now suffers from a very weird problem that has plagued League for a while now, and the best example I could give is Tahm Kench. That's the one. That's the champion I really wanted to use as an example, because I think Tahm Kench suffers from the exact same issues. Almost like the exact same issues. No, I want the Pajama Guardian skin. Actually, I've never played with this skin. I'm gonna try that out, I guess. Where he has like untapped potential in solo queue. If you're playing in solo queue, then there's a lot of abilities that Tahm Kench has really hard time using or utilizing to its full potential, because he knows that his team is not on the same page with him. I've talked about this in some videos where I was like, this is the good play, that's what I should be doing, but I don't want to do this because I know that my team aren't on the same page, and both of them suffer from very similar ultimate. But that's not it. Tahm Kench has his Devour and has his stacks and has his weird engage style that really makes him not good in solo queue. Obviously, he's actually really bad in solo queue. When he used to be good, he used to be like top lane, where he could utilize some of these abilities on enemies rather than allies. But even then, you still had like that untapped potential, and it just makes a bit of a weird situation, because you want to buff the champion, but you don't want it to become so overpowered. And so what they're doing with Tahm Kench is they're mini reworking him around those problems. They want to make them more easier to utilize in solo queue without like destroying the champion. And I 100% agree. 100% I agree. I think that's what they should do to Ryze as well. I want to talk about some of these ideas. And the first thing I want to say is that Ryze really needs to be on one page with what they want to do with the Ryze. Obviously, I'm a bit biased for what I want them to do with Ryze, because I want him to be a hyper carry. That doesn't seem like what Riot wants champions to be. They're really trying to make hyper carries less and less good. Obviously, I don't want him to be like a pure solo queue champion, because I hate playing against those. I hate playing against champions that are just so unbeatable in solo queue. Which, to be fair, is kind of what Urgot is. It's kind of like a solo queue champion. Kinda. He's also really good and competitive, but obviously not really. I'm talking about Urgot. And yeah, I get it, that's not what Riot wants. Obviously, that's also not what I want. Not really. I still want him to be a hyper carry, but I don't want him to just be like unbeatable and something like that. Obviously, that's not what I want. But if they don't want him to be a hyper carry at all, if they want him to be like a pure mage, then they also need to figure that out. Because right now, he is meant to be like this late game mage. Not really a pure hyper carry, but like a late game mage. And if they want to do that, I'm all for it. That's what I want, a late game mage. But I still think that he should have more potential in, again, solo queue that he doesn't right now. So the first thing is the ult. The ult needs some changes. Right now, using the ult is just barely faster than walking. And that's really not good. Sometimes it's even worse than walking. So I prefer to like walk from one place to another instead of teleporting, which is not good. The reason is because in competitive, they want to use that in team fight, not team fights, with like their teammates to use that way. And you can do a lot with the ult that way. But the problem is your teammates are never going to be on the same page. They're never going to peel for you. They're never going to come with you in the portal. They're never going to do these kind of stuff. And that just really, really, really ruins that ultimate. And using it selfishly is not very good. So if they could just make some changes to the ult to make it a bit more selfish, but I don't think that's what the champion really needs, or what I want. I don't really have any specific idea for what I want the ultimate to be, because the thing is, they designed ryze around having mostly basic abilities rather than a really good ultimate, and that's why I think it should stay. If they give him like an actual good ultimate, then that just makes him a bit weird, because he has really, really good abilities and then also really good ultimate, and that also makes him a bit weird as a hyper carry, right? That's kind of one of the reasons he did work, is because his abilities were so good in the first place. They could obviously just keep that, but again, it creates a bit of a weird situation almost all the time. So, what I think the ult should be is, I had some ideas, but nothing really specific. I've thought about a lot of things. Like, usually when I think about these stuff, I like to think about like what makes sense either to the champion, and if I have nothing, then what makes sense lore-wise or character-wise. And I just thought about that. Like, ryze has a lot of shit like in his lore that is almost never utilized. Like, he always talks about the world runes, and it's nowhere in his kit. Nowhere in his kit there's anything about the world runes. And I was like, wait, well, that could be something pretty interesting to explore, either in a way that he can switch between his world runes by using different abilities, or by using his ultimate to switch between different world runes, or having a passive where he collects different world runes, kind of like a bard, but different, obviously. I had a lot of fun thinking about ideas for world runes. Either world runes could give him different effects, or it could affect the way he wants to use his ultimate, give him maybe even different abilities, or he has to collect these different world runes and he can only keep like a couple at the same time, every one of them has a different effect, or something along that way, or that he has like a preset of world runes that he can switch between. That also works. So let's go with like example 1 of him having to collect different world runes. So let's say there's like all around the map, kind of like bard passive, different world runes that are spawning, and he has to collect obviously world runes. So then let's see, he goes in, he collects one of them, again just like a bard, and then he gives them like a special effect, like what if now he has to charge his Q, but the longer he charges it deals more damage. Again, I'm just throwing some ideas which I had fun thinking about. And that could be really cool. Like, he has to use different abilities or different combos based on what world rune he has. So if he has that world rune, then he obviously wants to use that combo. Maybe the effect is combos again. Yeah, what if like they make so he heals more, or he has less health, or they could even have like positive and negative effects. And he has to like switch between the world runes he collected, and then like he can only like keep a couple or something like that. Or that he has to collect these world runes and he can switch between them. So let's say there's like 6 world runes he could use, but he has to collect every one of them, and he has to switch between them with his ultimate or something. Right? That could also work. That could also be really fun. It's like a really, really fun and unique idea for a champion. Just like has to collect the 6 different world runes, each of them with his own effect. Maybe even a different way to collect. Like maybe one of them he has to deal a specific amount of like burst damage. Maybe for one of them he needs his team, if one of them he needs to claim. or maybe one of them he needs to pay for. Yeah, they could really have some fun with different ways, with different things like that. And if he collects it, then he can use it, and it gives him like really really good effects. But he can only have like one equipped. That's the ideas I've had most fun thinking about, and it's still the one that I'm leading hardest towards because it really fit. It could really fit into his character, and into his kit very very well, which is what you really are looking for, because he's very much designed around a passive ultimate. Because he has like again really really good abilities, and if they're now starting to nerf him and give him a good ultimate, and nerfing his abilities, it could take a while before he actually like becomes good, because they're going to need a lot of experiments in order to hit that sweet point that they want to hit. It's a possibility, obviously. That's a possibility if they want to do that. I just don't think it's worth the trouble, and they could just go with an ultimate that already fits with his style of kit. Yeah, that's what I've had fun thinking about. I've also had like a lot of fun thinking about some ways he could use his scrolls, right? He's always talking about the scrolls. They're come for the squirrels. Squirrels? They come for the scrolls. Don't let them get the scrolls, and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's also a neat idea. I've also thought about some ideas with that, but it ultimately didn't lead anywhere. I was like, what if he had to sit in a circle or something? What if he had to, and then he could like use a lot of different abilities, but he can't leave the circle or something. But that just makes him way too vulnerable or way too overpowered. Depends on how they do that. And that really, really, really doesn't fit his character. Like his entire thing is he wants to move around with his mobility. I mean. So having him sit in some one place is really, really not gonna fit with his character, which again is gonna create that problem. He could also make it so if he reads before, then he could like, and then he gets like bonus spell power, but he has to read before the fight, so it's like stop like a couple minutes, reads a bit, like Master Yi's W. But again, that creates the same problem with Master Yi's W. Something else I thought is he could switch between different abilities. Again, I really went into that a bit hard force. The idea that he can switch abilities, because it makes a lot of sense as a mage, as a really really skilled mage, that he'd be able to do that, like switch different spells. And I was like, wait, what if you could like read different scrolls, and every scroll had like different abilities it could use, or different set of abilities it can use, or something like that. Yeah, and I'm just thinking about like ideas of how that could make sense. So he reads these different scrolls and he switches, but that creates a really big problem because they need to balance every one of them fairly. Also, a lot of people are going to be like, wait, they already kind of tried to do that with Aphelios, and that really didn't work. And yeah, of course, that creates a problem where you give to a champion a lot to work with. Like, Aphelios has a slow on hit, a root, he has AoE, single target, but what a lot of people don't really think about is that he never gets all of them at once, so it's not really that overpowered. But yeah, I'm not talking about Aphelios. But I do agree that giving a champion multiple abilities, multiple even CC abilities, mobility, and stuff like that could create a lot of problems. And yeah, it's fun to as concept, but they're gonna really have to work hard if they want to do that, and that's almost like a full rework, which is not the point that I'm trying to make here. It's really not the point I'm trying to make. For like a full on ryze rework, I want like a mini rework that makes them more viable in solo queue. Hey, so yeah, that's the thought. That's the thought process I had. Um, I've also thought about changing his passive a bit because I already said, I think in one of my videos, that I think mana-based systems are dumb because it's almost like you give them a level scaling because there's very little items that actually give mana. So then the champion is just scaling with level, which is just kind of dumb. Like with ryze, if you give him like because he has mana scaling, that means that building AP just deals more damage. Why not just make it that way? He just deals more damage. Just increases scaling per with AP or something. I really don't get why you have to base it around mana. I get the concept behind it. It fits his like mage style, his like rune mage style. But because there's not like many mana items, then that never really comes into play. That does a bit, but that just locks him into a set build, which is not what I think is fun in League of Legends. So I've always thought that's very dumb, so they could base it around different things. I've also obviously thought about like having him go through different like elements. If you are familiar with the game called Smite, there's a mage called he's called, damn it, Merlin, and he switches between 3 forms. Obviously, in there it's done very poorly. I really don't like what they did. But the same concept could really work if just given a bit of a better work. Obviously, for the game, it was a completely different game, which I'm trying to say. League of Legends and Smite, completely different. Obviously, completely different balancing. But it's still done not really well. But I can still think that that could really work. Like, fire deals damage over time. And things like that, like maybe frost slows. Again, they could really have fun with it, but then it's again you're gonna have to change a lot of the abilities around it, which is not the point. Those are the ideas I've had so far. But I really want to nail the point. What I'm trying to get here, and what I think Riot should do is they need to know what they want the champion to be. If they want him to be a mage, then they need to make him a mage. If they want him to be a late game hyper scaling kind of mage, then they really need to give him. They really need to balance him around that. When a champion is just confused over what he wants to do, then it obviously makes him worse. And having a champion fully realized is really, really gonna go a long way for making ryze better. And that's what I really, really want. That's the first thing, obviously. Again, but the most important thing is that the ult. Ult needs some changes, and maybe the passive as well. Because I said I don't like the passive. But to be fair, that's not really a problem with ryze's passive, it's more of a problem with League of Legends items in general, which I don't really like right now. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any ideas, obviously, I'll be happy to hear them. And I'm actually really interested in what other people think ryze should happen to ryze. I'm gonna also go around, maybe look for other fan ideas for ryze mini reworks, and if I find anything interesting, I'll either link it or make a separate video talking about it. That's it for me. Bye.